Yo, what's happening, people? Wagwan. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about Melanie C, who you might know more commonly as Sporty Spice. Yeah, Sporty Spice from way back in the day from the Spice Girls. So Spice Girls were a band, British band from like 95? Ish, around about then. They ran for a few years. They had a good run, and they were amongst the biggest bands on the planet at the time, if not the biggest bands on the planet. Like, they were huge, right? They did a lot, and they just like blew up. It was ridiculous how big they were. But they ran for a few years and then they disbanded, I guess around 98-ish, 98, 97, 98, around about then, and they all went off and did their own kind of solo things. And they all released solo albums and solo projects. Some released one solo album, others released more than one solo album. And to date, when I checked, Melanie C is the only former Spice Girl that is still releasing original music. See, Emma Bunton put out an album last year that was mostly covers and a couple of original songs in it. Not to knock it, but it's what it is. Melanie C has consistently put out a brand new album every sort of 3-4 years-ish since 1999, her debut album Northern Star, and 21 years later just released this new album called Melanie C. Every sort of 3-4 years-ish putting out a brand new album. She's the only Spice Girl consistently putting out music since they split up over the last 20 years, and for that, you gotta put respect on her name. You gotta put some respect on her name. Like, I didn't realize she was doing it. I have not paid that much attention to Melanie C or any of the Spice Girls. I had to look this sort of stuff up as I was checking this album out. So I had no idea she was still putting out new music. I just kind of thought, well, the Spice Girls were done. They released their stuff and that was kind of it. But no, she's been putting out music consistently, and that was pretty awesome to learn, because I feel like sometimes when you hear about a musician and then you stop hearing about a musician, it's easy to forget that people still do stuff. And when you realize that people are still putting out music, that lets you know that they are passionate about it. That lets you know that it's not about being super famous and having all the paparazzi and the glitz and the glamour. It's just, you know what, she wanted to put out music, wanted to keep writing, wanted to keep singing, and did that. So yeah, put some respect on Melanie C's name. And also, just going back in time a little bit to when Northern Star was released, she did a song, I think it was the main single, the lead single from the album, called Never Be the Same Again, featuring Lisa Left Eye Lopez. Rest in peace to Lisa Left Eye Lopez. This song was a banger. Like, I forgot how good that song was. Never Be the Same Again was freaking awesome. So yeah, if you've not heard that tune, check out that tune, Never Be the Same Again. This is like 20 plus years old, this song is, and I don't know, I guess it's kind of a long since forgotten song by now, but it should not be. That needs to be brought back. That tune was a banger. But anyway, that was 21 years ago. Let's talk about Melanie C and her latest release now. So it's called Melanie C. It's a self-titled album. And as with, I feel like what self-titled albums tend to do, at least in my view, they tend to be like, self-reflective. They tend to be like, this is who I am at this stage in my life. So who is Melanie C at this stage in her life in 2020? And this is very much a dance-influenced pop album. I would say like a lot of the songs on this, especially the first few songs on this album, they're the type of songs that, back in my clubbing days. So this is, back probably about 99, 98, 99, back in my old school clubbing days. This was the type of song that would come on and you'd be on the dance floor to do. Like, them kind of like dance tracks, everybody's kind of like, yeah, that's what we were listening to back then. That's what those few songs kind of remind me of, those kind of old school club anthems. But beyond that, I feel like the overall theme of this album seems to be, about being yourself and learning to be yourself, and, sort of taking that fearless leap into being yourself. But it feels a lot about Melanie C kind of realizing that maybe she's been pretending to be somebody else. She's been maybe trying to fit into these different boxes over the years, and now is like, what, I need to be me, and this is who I am, and this is the truth. And there's a line in one of the songs where she says, "They don't recognize me when I'm being honest." And I feel that's a really powerful line, because there's this old saying about how the truth, when you get so used to hearing a lie, the truth seems absurd, so when you get so used to seeing what is fake, by the time you hear the truth, it just seems ridiculous. And I feel like that's kind of referencing that in some way, that now that she's being honest with herself, people are like, nah, and there's a kind of a powerful sense of being when you realize that and still pursue to be yourself anyway. When people like start maybe pushing you away, or they're still trying to fit you into these boxes because they want you to be this thing, and you're like, no, I need to be this thing. And it might mean that some people don't like you, or some people don't want to hang with you, or some people, don't want to roll with you, all that kind of stuff. But it's more important to Melanie to be herself, to step outside of those perceptions of these boxes that other people trying to fit her in, and say, like, this is me, this is who I need to be. You might not like it, you might not want to believe it, but this is who I am. But let me talk about some of the more standout tracks on the album. I would say there's actually quite a few standout tracks on this album, actually. So let me first talk about Blame It On Me. So this is what I feel is really about sort of toxic people and type of people who try to make you feel worthless, even though it's like nothing to do with you, but they'll make you feel like it's all your fault, everything's your fault. They refuse to kind of take any kind of acknowledgement for their own involvement in anything. It's just like they just make you feel like you're some worthless piece of nothing, and being around those people could be very detrimental to your mental health. And I feel like with this track, Melanie is really just saying, like, look, I know that you are not a good person, and I know that you're just going to blame all this crap on me anyway, so go ahead, blame it on me. I don't even care, because I'm moving beyond that. I think this is one of her steps into that sort of self-actualization of removing toxic people from her life, removing the type of person who is just really draining her energy and, making her feel less than she is. And she's recognizing that and saying, you know what, I'm done with you. Overload, where she talks about, I don't want to be your acceptable version of me. So I feel like it's, again, kind of referencing that whole thing about pretending to be somebody else, or, what they accept from you. It's like, I don't want to be your acceptable version of me. I need to be myself. I need to step outside of that. She's also goes on in reference to the title Overload, that the idea that this pressure to conform can cause her to just blow up, lose her temper, just like, and it says, you don't want to see that. As somebody I know might say, you want no smoke, fam. You don't want no smoke, fam. You don't want no smoke, fam. But it's just that kind of thing of when people try to fit you into these boxes, and you're just like, no, I need to break out of that. I need to step away from that. And now in this particular song, it's like, you know what? I need to be away from this, because this kind of pressure is going to cause me to erupt, and you don't want to see that. You don't want to be around me when I lose my temper. Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You won't like me when I'm angry. Fearless, which is my favorite song on the album. I feel like this song is awesome, and it's really just about being fearless in being yourself, because she talks about diving into the deepest, and so I feel like that's a reference to the unknown, like the deepest depths of the ocean where you can't see anything, the unknown, and diving into that, just like, I need to just like go head first into the unknown. And yes, it's scary, yes, it's frightening, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know whether people are going to like you or not. You don't know whether things are going to still work out or not. That kind of unknown territory. But you need to learn to be fearless. You need to learn to let go of all that. And there's this a saying, I think it was Will Smith that said this. I don't know if he got it from somewhere else, but I heard Will Smith say this, that everything you want is on the other side of fear. I feel like this song is kind of like that as well, just like being fearless in taking these steps, because being yourself and learning to be yourself, and that whole thing when you realize, because a lot of times we consider the fact that when you're a child, you're raised by your parents, and you're pretty much doing what your parents tell you to do. Well, unless you're a rebellious kid, I don't know, but you're pretty much doing what your parents tell you to do. And then when you're in school, you're doing what your teachers are telling you to do, and then you get a job and you're doing what your boss tells you to do. And I feel like there's a point in your life, maybe around about 25, 30, I guess it's different for different people, maybe later for some, but there's a point in your life, at some point in your life, wherever it is, whether it's early or later, that you realize that who you were being isn't who you are. And then learning to become who you are and trying to figure that out. There's a lot of steps that can go into that, and it can take a while to figure that who you are beyond what people think you are, beyond what your parents want from you, beyond what your teachers want from you, beyond what your boss wants from you, beyond what society wants from you. Who are you? And then when you're figuring it out, as you're figuring it out, and then realizing there's a lot of unknown territory and a lot of things that you could go there, but what could happen? Could you lose your job? Could you be kicked out of your house? All these kind of stuff. But part of becoming yourself, and part of being the best version of yourself is learning to be fearless and just going into that unknown. And it might be scary and it might not turn out so well. You know, let's be honest. It's not everything's going to be, you know, cupcakes and blowjobs. Right? You know, it might be a little bit scary, and it might always go so well. But you still need to go in fearlessly and, you know, deal with whatever comes. You know, the good, the bad, and everything in between. And then know where to run, which I feel like this song is about anxiety, and it's just that feeling of, you know, she talks about being alone in a crowded room, you know, just being surrounded by people but still feeling alone. I think there's a lot of times, a lot of us, I know I felt this at times, and I'm sure a lot of other people felt this as well, where you could be in a room full of people but still feel alone, you know, and still feel like you don't really want to be there. You're just kind of looking around like there's an exit over there. There's an exit over there. I can maybe get out this way, get past that person, and nobody can see me as I walk out. You know, you kind of thinking that your mind, that, you know, could kind of slip out a little bit. And even sometimes when, you know, with some of your friends and that kind of thing, and even then sometimes you can still feel like you're just not really, you're there, but you're not really there. So I feel like that's what she's referencing in this song, that kind of feeling of being in a place but not really being in a place. And now that I'm saying it now, maybe it wasn't anxiety, maybe it's more of a reference to the whole thing about pretending to be somebody else, you know, just being there but not really being there. Now that I'm thinking about it, it could be both, I guess. I mean, that's the thing about songs and just art in general, you could always interpret them in different ways. So yeah, I initially thought anxiety, but now that I'm talking about it, I'm thinking that perhaps it's just a reference to, you know, being amongst all these people, or surrounded by all these people that want her to be this thing, but while in her mind she's trying to be something else. So there's this feeling of being there but not really being there. So yeah, maybe she meant that. Maybe she meant something completely different. Of course, I don't know. I'm not Melanie C. I'm just some guy on the internet that talks about music sometimes, or maybe a lot of times actually. I've been talking about music quite a lot lately on this channel. But yeah, for me, this album's a banger. Let me know what you think if you listen to it. Is it a banger? Is it a wanger? Let me know. If you got any suggestions, recommendations, all that kind of stuff, drop them in the comments. But that's gonna be it for the minute. So guys, until whenever, if ever, peace.